Matthew Jacobson with Jacobson Sports Network. Let's talk about the possibility of Arizona getting an NHL team again. There's been multiple tidbits and breadcrumbs over the last couple of days, including some comments from Matt Ishbia a few months ago I never got around to. So let's go ahead and just without wasting any time, let's talk about the possibility of the NHL coming back and what we know so far. Is it closer than we think? Well, a very unlikely source seems to think so. Let's start off with the Sportico article. All these articles will be linked below in the description. This one is from Barry Bloom, and it's titled, Ishbia hopes to return NHL to Phoenix, possibly in new arena. Mr. Bloom was nice enough to give me just a couple of moments of his time, so after the article was published, I did reach out and get a little bit of clarification, but for the most part, what you see is what you get with this article. It was published on July 24th, so a couple of months ago, and Ishbia was approached and asked about his opinion on the NHL coming back to Arizona and the Coyotes' relocation. Here is what he had to say. I'm definitely going to be a part of the community, and if I can help bring hockey back, I'll look at that. It's definitely something I'm interested in. It's a four-sport town. I'm disappointed we don't have a hockey team, but I understand what happened, and we're going to try to fix that one day. He also went on to add something interesting that we all kind of knew, and we've been speculating about for a while, and even I've been talking about for a while, but here's a little quote. I think our arena is first class right now. I love our arena, but at some point we're going to need to get a new arena. It's an open secret. Matt Ishbia is interested in getting a new building. However, as has been pointed out many times, the Suns' lease does not end until the mid-2030s, I want to say 2034 specifically. However, just keep in the back of your mind, there are a lot of moving parts. It all depends on wording of contracts, if all parties involved are willing to, for example, take the remaining years of one contract and add it to another. There's a lot of things that could change there. However, yes, that is a fact. The Suns arena deal does not end until the 2030s. When I first read these quotes from Matt Ishbia, my first thoughts were, yes, it's nice to finally have right there from him, not a spokesperson, though PHNX did a great job getting that quote back in 2023, but not a spokesperson from Ishbia himself saying that he is interested. He's interested in being a part of that. He's interested in helping bring hockey back if he can. However, it's very much non-committal, and as Leah Merrill said today on PHNX Hockey as of recording October 2nd, 2024, a very legal statement. We also get legal statements from guys like Gary Bettman. We will get to him in a second. However, it feels like Ishbia is playing nice with the Valley. He's saying, I am interested, I do want to be part of the solution, but not saying I'm going to make this happen. Whether or not conversations have been happening, I've heard rumors, you've heard rumors. We're not really here to talk about rumors. We're going to stick to the facts here. Regardless of what may or may not be going on right now behind the scenes, this is public confirmation of interest and nothing more. Not that anything is being actively pursued or that anything is getting done right now. However, we did have a couple of very interesting statements at the end of last month, both by Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly and then by Gary Bettman. We all know at the end of that press conference announcing the Coyotes' relocation, Gary Bettman did say we shall return. In an opinion piece from the Hockey News posted on September 22nd, we got some interesting quotes from Bill Daly. While this is an opinion piece, these are real quotes and I want to talk about them. Quote, obviously, Gary and I joke that we've spent the last 20 years trying to preserve hockey in Arizona, and ultimately we were unsuccessful with this iteration, Daly told THN Director of Digital Media Michael Trakos. It doesn't mean the next one won't be successful. Given the right circumstances, it can be very successful. I'm pretty sure you all caught it. The author of this piece also caught it. He said the next one. Gary Bettman already confirmed the team was coming back. However, there was a little bit of limbo because that was under the expectation that Alex Morello would win that land auction and be building the arena himself. That auction was canceled a few days before the auction was supposed to be held, and Alex Morello shortly after relinquished his rights and returned them to the NHL. That said, it's clear to everyone involved the league wants this market. They want to be in Arizona. I did not think it was unreasonable to assume, even before these comments, that the league still wanted to come back, because it's clear that they do, but these comments just add a little more to it. But that's not the only quote we have. Daly continued. Quote, I think the process is kind of the same as Alex Morello would have to deal with anyway. Having said that, it is a gating factor to go back to that market until we have definitive plans and progress on a state-of-the-art arena, because right now that market doesn't have one that can house a hockey team. Whether that involves a renovation to an existing arena, I suppose that's always possible. I would say if you're writing on a clean slate, you'd love to have a hockey-specific arena that's designed predominantly for hockey, so we'll see how it plays out. Obviously, some of the most popular speculation is around Matt Ishbia. As we just established, about 2 months before these comments, Ishbia did publicly confirm his interest, however, it was very non-committal. But considering Footprint Center has already gone through renovations, it could easily go through more to house a hockey team and be the primary home for them and the Suns for a decade or more to come. Now, Ishbia did say, something we all know, they do eventually need a brand new arena, and even Bill Daly says right there, you would prefer a hockey-specific arena, and that's for any ownership group. They're not against the idea of renovating an existing arena, and you know it's not going to Glendale. NHL hockey will never go back to Glendale, Arizona. Unfortunately, because I love that arena, but it is what it is. Financially, it simply didn't work. But whether it's a brand new arena, Craig Morgan's PHNX has already confirmed there are at least 2 interested groups. However, the degree to which they are interested or whether or not they have the money, the finances to get it done, remains to be seen. And Matt Ishbia, while publicly confirming interest, again, was non-committal and did not confirm he was actively pursuing it in any way, shape, or form. And with PHNX reporting that he turned down a $600 million offer to buy the Coyotes, there are a lot of questions that still need to be answered. And then a day after that, on September 23rd, Gary Bettman confirmed the NHL is not currently considering expansion. However, it's very well known and very much assumed by a lot of people within the know in NHL circles that expansion is going to happen eventually. Utah wanted to expand. Atlanta is already working on a building and trying to expand. The owner of the Houston Rockets already confirmed he has interest in bringing an NHL team to Houston, but did mention the price. He did mention making it financially viable. So let's recap what we know so far. It's an open secret the NHL is going to expand, but Gary Bettman says they are not currently going to expand, despite the fact that the Coyotes would have had an expansion team and Utah is treated as an expansion team, so make of that what you will. We have a billionaire owner of the Phoenix Suns that has interest in helping facilitate bringing the Coyotes back. Whether it means he's involved, he's an owner, part owner, whatever, he's interested in helping. And we have Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly continuing the thoughts of Gary Bettman, and this is after Morello walked away. This is months after Morello walked away, still referring to the Arizona market as the next one, like they are going to come back. It's reasonable to say hockey's coming back here, we just don't know when. But one NHL insider, Frank Seravalli, gave his opinions in a recent interview with the Clean Hits Hockey podcast. I will not show clips as I don't really know them. However, I will leave a link below in the description to them. Go ahead and check them out. It is a Utah hockey podcast. So if you're a Coyotes fan going over there for the clip, please just watch the clip and nothing else unless you want to leave a positive comment. Just because we may have criticisms with ownership or anyone else involved in facilitating the relocation, that does not mean we need to in any way, shape, or form be sending hate to people just covering or talking about the hockey team. The topic of Arizona hockey came up. It was in the context of what pitch would you give Arizona fans to watching Utah? I am surprisingly in agreement with Frank Saravalli's answer here. And just to pause for a second and acknowledge, I am someone who is very, very, very heavily critical of Frank Seravalli. I am not personally a fan of his. However, he clearly knew what he was talking about, the relocation. I think he knows what he's talking about here. And surprisingly enough, I agree with his opinions and assessment as we go along in the interview. So I'm giving him his credit because regardless of my personal feelings on him, he deserves credit here. He goes on to praise the Arizona market, and he goes on to say that in his prediction, his personal opinion, we will have NHL hockey back in Arizona in 5 years. I have maintained for a while now that I'm not changing my personal timeline. I think the NHL comes back in 5 to 10 years, but obviously ownership and that building need to get done. But to have someone like Frank Seravalli, who does have sources, he has gotten a lot right. He has gotten things right in the past, saying that he thinks they'll be back in 5 years. Where there's smoke, there's fire. In my opinion, way too many little breadcrumbs, way too many little things are lining up that I would not be surprised if conversations are happening. I'm not going to speculate with who, to what degree, how far along they are. That's not what we're here to talk about. But I think we have more than enough evidence to say something is happening. There are conversations. let's hope they keep going well. Let's hope it can get done. Anyway, when asked what he thinks the next expansion markets will be, Seravalli straight up said Atlanta and Arizona. Considering Houston is a massive frontrunner and Houston is very comparable in terms of market size to Phoenix, that is surprising to me. Now, not as surprising because there's been a lot of conflicting reports on Houston ownership, just how badly they want an NHL team, and the finances keep coming up over and over again, so I'm going to assume there's not a lot of interest in the price tag from the ownership at this current time, and there hasn't really been, at least over the last year. But that is my personal opinion. But having Arizona that high is shocking. It's a good thing, but it is shocking. And the weird thing about this interview is Frank Seravalli, who from my perspective has gone out of his way to criticize Arizona to a strange degree in my personal opinion in different videos and contexts, he also in that same regard kept bringing Arizona up over and over again and kept trying to stay on the point of Arizona's a good market and mentioned it's not just the arena, it's also ownership and the baggage of this team never winning. This is all paraphrased. Go watch the original interview for yourself. There are timestamps in the actual video. It's about a 5-minute clip, but he mentions the history of this team not winning there. He mentions that that was kind of an uphill battle. He even talks about, despite him not thinking Atlanta should have another team, bringing up how that franchise also was never set up for success. Again, it's a lot of things that I agree with, and I think he knows what he's talking about here. Now, do I think he is right in the 5-year timeline? I still maintain we're going to have NHL hockey back in 5 to 10 years. However, a lot of stuff needs to get done, and we're not likely to hear anything definitive for at least a year or two. And going off the NHL's public comments and what we know about the Morello deal, how the NHL required a 1.5 year notice, and how it's been very apparent how the league will not come back here unless that arena there is progress on it. So in my opinion, what that means is bare minimum, the funding needs to all be there, shovels need to be in the ground, and that building needs to start being built. Like, absolute best case scenario, if the building takes a little bit, maybe one of the existing arenas can host a team for 1 to 2 years, absolutely max. However, I don't really think that's what they're going for, but in the absolute best case scenario, I'll use Glendale Arena as an example just because the ice plant is still in the building, it's still there, and talking to different people that understand how ice plants work, theoretically, it should not be that costly to get it up and running, just good enough for a season or two. Absolute fastest, best case, the NHL's rushing it, which they're not. Gary Bettman said in a recent interview that essentially it's not on the front or mid burner, it's on the back burner for the league. The league is not prioritizing this. Whatever ownership group is going to get it done needs to get it done. They need to buy the land, they need to build this arena, and while they're trying to build this arena, they need to get NHL approval. All that needs to get done from this new owner's side, not from the league. But absolute quickest, sure, it could come back in 5 years. Contingent on what conversations are happening, who is leading the charge, who wants this ownership group, and who has the money to get it done. There's a lot that still needs to get done. Whether or not conversations are happening, a lot of work still needs to get done. I still believe it can come back in 5 years, but I'm sticking with my 5 to 10 year timeline. I am surprised that Frank Seravalli is so confident in 5 years, which is the lower end of the spectrum there, because my current understanding is a lot of things would need to happen, and there would need to be a lot of, okay, you can do that, we'll do this, that I just don't know if they would do. And if you want to bring up Glendale Arena in the context of, well, how come they just didn't give the Coyotes a short-term lease? Long and short of it, the Coyotes had a Morello problem, but that's a story for a different day. Anyway, that's all we got so far for Coyotes 2.0, NHL to Arizona, however I'm going to label this. That's all we got. Those are all the tidbits. It's a lot of positive news. However, while positive, it's nothing definitive except for Ishbia would like to help and the NHL knows they're coming back here. Then again, even without these comments, I could have told you the NHL is coming back here because it was very apparent, very public, very direct. The NHL is coming back to this market. Just a matter of time. And with all these little tidbits and all these little breadcrumbs, maybe that time is sooner than we think, but we will have to wait and see. That's all I got for you. All the links are below in the description, so go ahead and check them out for yourself. Read the articles, listen to the interviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Matthew Jacobson.